tonight. You get NFL football, Game 3 of the World Series, and the Lakers and the Suns. They will have all of those games on their monitors here tonight at the Trophy Bar. But we're going to move right now to Rudy Carpenter, former ASU and NFL QB. He joins us on the Right Toyota guest line. Rudy, welcome as always, pal. Just start first with just your overall assessment of what you saw yesterday from the Cardinals and the upset win over the Dolphins.
I mean, I've been talking, pretty poorly all year about the Cardinals and not having an identity and their skill level, in my viewpoint, talent level not being up to par in the NFL. And I believe now they're sitting in first place in the NFC West. So, I mean, who really knows? I don't think I really know what I'm talking about.
It's so funny, Rudy, when you watch these games. It's like all of a sudden it takes them a half to either kind of figure it out. But when they do figure it out, I think the more reliable thing is just going to the running game. But James Conner, all of a sudden it kicks in, or the linemen get lathered up, or chemistry kicks in. That seems that's kind of the common denominator, is getting him off the schneid, and all of a sudden the offense starts to kick in the second half.
Well, I mean, like I say a lot on this show, I feel like I don't even have to watch the Cardinals games. I can just look at the box score, Kyler Murray's stat line, and know typically if they won or lost. And if Kyler Murray has an incredible stat line, both in completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, no turnovers, and has a big rushing game, typically it's a game they win. If Kyler Murray has an average game or a subpar game in any category, typically that they lose. And that has been, my complaint for the last couple of years, is they make Kyler Murray do too much. And I mean, finally it feels like, Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of had a breakout game. I think he had 6 catches for over 100 yards, which is big. But I think maybe the identity of this Cardinals football team is with the running game and through James Conner. I mean, I think at some point in time, and it's really easy to sit back and just say James Conner is just okay. He's not a superstar. He's not this or he's not that. But I think when you really look at it, he's probably a top 5 running back in the league. And he seems to be, kind of maybe an emotional lift for them, maybe the heartbeat of the team to a certain extent, a guy that plays hard every game, gets things going for them. And maybe that's the identity of this football team. Maybe they have to ride through James Conner a little bit more. And if they can do that, they can get teams to play more single high safety. And when teams are forced to play more single high safety, that's going to give you more one-on-one opportunities for Marvin Harrison in the play action game.
Where you look at these last drives, these game-winning field goals by Ryland, and you talk about James Conner, only 53 yards on the day, but the last couple of drives, he really stood out the line. He had a couple break runs, a couple of clutch throws by Kyler, a couple of clutch catches by Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, these games, winning 3 out of 4 with game-winning drives, it seems to be the clutch yards on the last couple of drives. And I think that's where I've noticed with Kyler Murray to really focus it and make those big plays with these game-winning drives.
Well, I also think that Trey McBride has played really well too.
Sure.
And I think he's turned out to be a big part of the offense and someone that they can count on and a guy they can rely on, right? And so, look, I still think this team needs to find its identity. I think they still need to figure out, who they're going to be as the season goes on, and if they want to stay atop of the NFC West. I mean, the Rams are still a formidable football team. The Seahawks have been up and down, but I think can still play, compete, and obviously the 49ers, right? So there's still a lot of work to be done. But, obviously at this point, the Cardinals are still very much alive.
Rudy Carpenter is our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. Rudy, take me to some of the play calling that took place in that game. And did you see something from Drew Pensing that was different than what we have seen from previous games? Because it seemed that everything he tried to dial up pretty much worked. And that doesn't happen that often in an NFL game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the interesting thing is when you listen to these guys in the press conference and when you listen to Kyler, and one of the things that Kyler has talked about is, the play calling has really been the same all year, and that Drew Petzing is calling plays. And, as Manouch will tell you, a lot of times in the NFL, you go to the line of scrimmage and the play call, it just depends on what the defense is playing. If they're playing a too high shell, you're going to run the football. If they're playing single high defense, you're going to throw the football. It's the same way in the quarterback run game. People will say, well, why isn't Kyler Murray running the ball? And it's like, well, they're calling a lot of plays where he has the opportunity to run the football, but based on what the defense is doing, the read is to hand the ball off. And I just think yesterday it was a situation in which, when those plays were called, the defense was in the right coverage. They were playing the right defense. They were in the right scheme for the play to work. And I think that's one of the things you saw with Marvin Harrison Jr. yesterday is that, on the plays where he's number one in the progression, the defense was playing a coverage that allowed Kyler to stick with the number one read and give him a chance to make a play on the ball.
Rudy, it's interesting to listen to what happened last week. And as you know, and I know, I told Jimmy here, we would have the quarterback meeting on Friday, usually Friday after the week of preparation. We'd sit down with the head coach and quarterback coach in Buffalo and say, hey, he'd tell us, what are you guys comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with for the quarterbacks? We come to find out that Kyler pulled Marvin Harrison aside and did some film study after practice and did the same thing to say, look, what are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? What can we do to get you off the schneid, get you going? And I'm sure that Drew Petzing got involved with that as well, too. I think that's part of the thing is, what do you like? What don't you like? What are you comfortable with? And I think we saw that in order to see him targeted 7 times and get those 6 receptions. At least I felt that after hearing about that.
Yeah, that could be true. But when I watch the football games, I mean, I see, Marvin Harrison getting a lot of the same type routes. He's getting a lot of speed digs. He's getting chances on go routes and 50-50 balls, some stop routes and some comebacks. I mean, in my viewpoint, I just think a lot of it has to do with how the defense is playing him. They're giving him different looks. Sometimes they're up in his face, playing him press man with help over the top. Sometimes they're just playing straight, zone cover 3. This is what they want. Sometimes he's coming to the line of scrimmage and getting some kind of cover 2 show where he's got a corner that's putting his hands on, he's got a safety over the top. And, I just think sometimes where the play calling goes, just makes it difficult. I also think that Marvin Harrison Jr. has gotten some opportunities and then had some drops on plays that he would typically make, or he has typically made. In my viewpoint, I just think it's a situation where, the play caller and the quarterback just have to understand that, Marvin Harrison's a special player. He's a rookie still trying to figure it out. And they just got to keep on going back to him and keep on giving him the ball and not give up on him. I think in my viewpoint, I think that's something that happens in the NFL too much is a play caller or a quarterback will give up on a guy just too soon or too easily.
And Rudy, I'm going to leave you with this. I felt watching that game yesterday, that's the most complete, balanced, mental, cerebral, whatever you call it, game I felt for Kyler Murray. Main reason why him moving around, keeping his eyes up, looking to throw the ball first, his accuracy, his decision-making, I mean, on the money with his shows. I felt maybe in a last couple of years since the injury that he looked comfortable, he looked decisive, and for me, that was one of his better games I've seen out of one Kyler Murray in a long time.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, I don't get a chance to see the all-22. I mean, one thing it definitely looks like to me is that the game has definitely slowed down for Kyler. I mean, and I'm not saying that the game was moving fast for him, that he was having a hard time processing information before. I think he's always been pretty good with that. But I think at this point now he's seeing the same defensive coordinators multiple times, the same teams multiple times, the same types of pass rushes multiple times. And he's just getting a better understanding and a better feel for how people are trying to defend him on a week in and week out basis.
So the new Call of Duty came out. Maybe he hasn't watched it yet. Maybe he was dialed in for the game.
Oh, Jimmy with the cheap shot. My goodness.
I couldn't pass it up. Rudy.
I don't know. It's too. I mean, it's too hard for me to comment. I've never been a video game guy, but during my time in college and my time in the NFL, I felt like that was literally all my teammates did. All the ones that weren't married and didn't have kids, I felt like all they did was talk about video games and that type of stuff. I just don't know a ton about it.
It's all right. I don't either. I've started with Pac-Man, so that'll give you an indication. Thank you, buddy.
I'm sure Kyler will get plenty of hours logged on Call of Duty now that it's out, but he probably won't be sharing that information with anybody anymore.
I think you're right about that. Have a great one. Thank you, Rudy, as always. See ya.
See you guys.
There you go. That's Rudy Carpenter, and he's presented today by All City Towing. And right now, are you looking for a new gig? Would you like something where you can work outside and not just be stuck behind a desk? Well, here's all you have to do. Get in touch with the largest towing company in the state. You know I'm talking about All City Towing. They are hiring dispatchers, call takers, lot attendants, drivers, customer service personnel, and you get great benefits as well, like a healthy 401k employer match, health benefits, employer-paid life insurance, and a monthly fuel allowance. Ready to take your career to the next level? Make it at All City Towing. And here's all you have to do. Just go online and type in allcitytowing.com. That's allcitytowing.com and search careers. Allcitytowing.com, search careers, where your future is on the move. All right, coming up next, little football at 50. We're hanging out here today in Ocotillo at the Trophy Sports Bar, and it is a 3-game night tonight. It is Monday Night Football, Game 3 of the World Series, Suns and Lakers in the NBA. This is the place where you want to watch it, the Trophy Bar in Ocotillo. Rockin' Minutes with Jimmy B, Fox Sports 910.
Just your standard amount of bucks, not